To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not just their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, art. Welcome to the Chiss Ascendancy podcast.
Alrighty then.
Hey.
Hello there. We gotta figure out what we're saying.
You know what we're saying.
Hello everyone and welcome back to
Chiss Ascendancy.
episode 43. We are gonna get down to the nitty gritty right off the bat. We're skipping news.
There's not a whole lot of news.
Yeah, the news is the Mandalorian is kicking. It's popping. The Hot Wings challenge, it just gets hotter and hotter as we go.
And other like tidbits. The From a Certain Point of View for Empire Strikes Back came out last Tuesday. So if you haven't already gotten
on
that,
shelves.
go ahead and grab it.
Yes.
So far, Wampa Story is the one you're looking out for.
Yeah, if you're an Audible person, if you do enjoy audiobooks, or if you enjoy audiobooks but haven't tried Audible, you can get a 30-day free trial and use one free credit that they'll give you on From a Certain Point of View. It's 18 hours of listening fun, so it's a good one to use it on.
Yeah.
And if you're any sort of Star Wars fan, you probably know the name Sam Witwer. Started his Star Wars career as Galen Merrick from The Force Unleashed. Best known for his role as Darth Maul from the Clone Wars and Rebels.
You think people really know him more as Darth Maul than
Absolutely.
Starkiller?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I know a lot of people that just don't know what voice actors are. You know what I mean? They just don't know names like that. I would think Force Unleashed because it's actually his face. But either way, he's big in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, so there's a host of readers, and he is the one that reads the Wampa story. So Wampa's my favorite Star Wars creature. Sam Witwer, one of my favorite Star Wars actors, playing one of my favorite Star Wars characters, reading one of my favorite Star Wars species. Anyways, it was tip-top. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What a tragic story. What a tragic tale. Anyways, I don't want to give into it. But that does kind of segue us nicely into what we're talking about today. Notice the Darth Maul in my hat.
Yeah, I did see that.
If you're watching, if you're doing only audio, well,
He's wearing a Darth Maul hat.
I'm wearing a Darth Maul hat. This is actually some merch I bought from Officially Star Wars.
Yeah, I recognize that.
So Brody, shout out. Cool dude. So today we are talking about George Lucas' sequel trilogy.
Yeah, so obviously we've got the creator of Star Wars. You have to imagine that before Disney bought Lucasfilm, George had ideas for where the story would go.
Right.
You know, on paper after Jedi. And so we're going to kind of get into the ideas that he released, I think, fairly recently in an interview because it's kind of breaking news-ish.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we always knew that he had plans for a sequel trilogy, but he always had plans for a prequel trilogy. You know, and it's semi-common knowledge that he started with A New Hope because that was the greatest singular story.
Right.
Did 4, 5, and 6. Went back and did 1, 2, and 3, 15 years later. So who knows if he wasn't waiting 15 years and was going to start the sequel trilogy now.
Right. Well, and what I think...
You fans out there weren't so barbaric.
What I think is, because if you watch the making, especially of The Phantom Menace, George is still kind of figuring out the ins and outs of the story. You know what I mean? As it's unfolding, he's seeing how it'll play out. But I think he kind of probably had a stronger vision for the sequel trilogy once he finished the prequel trilogy, but I think he was a gentleman and held out his plans just so that the sequel trilogy by Disney could get its full honor.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, George is definitely a gentleman. And part of it is, this is just the sad truth, I think he doesn't like to talk about it because it makes him sad.
Well, I got depressing fast. All right.
Because he had ideas he was pitching to Disney. When he sold Star Wars...
He was what?
He had plans that he was pitching. Make sure you guys heard that correctly. But he was sitting in on the early meetings.
Right.
And they were like, no, we don't want that. Oh my God. If I could have been in that meeting, I would have been like, you guys shut up and listen to Georgie. And
I think, just to get a little seguezy, one of the greatest things that we've seen in The Mandalorian is the fact that they're paying George's ideas so much respect. You know what I mean? That's why I think it's felt the most like Star Wars that Star Wars has put out here in a little while.
What do you mean by that? I know what you mean, but like, what? No. What are they doing to pay homage to George's stuff?
Just because you've got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, two of like the biggest Star Wars fans that are in Star Wars right now, and Dave Filoni spent a ton of time with George.
Yeah,
you know, it's just
Dave Filoni is like George Jr.
Right now, it's the most like George has been on set that it's been for a while. I think if George Lucas actually gave input, Dave Filoni would jump on that 10,000 times out of 10,000.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool because you know, I do respect that Rian Johnson is a huge Star Wars fan, and that's some of the reason that it felt so different, because he brought his own love for Star Wars into it. I'm not one of those people that's like, Rian Johnson hates Star Wars. He obviously loves Star Wars, and he got to make his own movie, so he did, you know, he ran out with his own ideas. If I got the leash, I would do the same thing. This just in, Boba Fett kills Kylo Ren. But I think that Dave has a deeper understanding because of his relation, like you said, with George. And so there's a lot of times that Dave will have an opinion, but his opinion is based within some of the time that he spent with George and the relationship there. So anyways, some of the things that we have gotten before were rumors of exploring, you know, we've talked about before, we would love to watch the George Lucas sequels, but a lot of the people in the world would hate it because George's mind just works differently. And that's what makes George Lucas so great, is that he's not, you know, he's not a cookie cutter kind of guy. He, you know, when he was doing Star Wars, he did not want to be in the Directors Guild, and he was kind of like, no, you guys are going to tell me how to do my thing. I'm not going to be part of the guild. That's one of the reasons that we've never gotten a Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars movie, is because Steven is obviously so deep into the Directors Guild, and George was like, I'm going to do my own thing. So he's got an outside the box kind of mind, but sometimes, you know, you have a Jar Jar character that it takes people 20 years to love, and then some. I don't know. I think there's more Jar Jar fans than you would think.
And then some.
The day that those pre-orders went up for that Jar Jar Black series, it was selling like hotcakes. You couldn't get it on any website.
And then again, there's still a lot of people that hate Jar Jar in spite of the fact that it was sold out. I get what you're saying, though.
I would say the deeper you go in Star Wars fandom, the more likely someone likes him than doesn't like him. Not that you're not a deep fan, but I'm saying, does that make sense?
Nope.
The deeper, the more someone loves Star
Wars... I know what
Wars,
you're saying. I disagree, but that's fine.
I don't know.
I know you don't know, but I think it's fine. We'll move on.
I don't know why you're getting angry.
I'm not
think
angry.
That
I just don't want to get caught up on it.
The more surface level people are like, yeah, he said only blah, blah, blah. Anyways, those are the people who didn't like episode 2 of the season of The Mandalorian. I digress. But a recent book came out, or is coming out, but has been talked about. It's something that is very, very cool. It's called Star Wars Archives, episodes 1 through 3, 1999 to 2005. Written and kind of helped put together by Mr. Paul Duncan. And he, 2 years ago, wrote the same book for 4, 5, and 6 for the original trilogy. And it's very cool because he basically goes to George and is like, tell me all about the making of and the soul and the heart and what it takes and how you create this universe. So it's very interesting. It's a very cool book because if you get a visual guide to The Force Awakens or something like that, everything is immersive in world. It's like you're reading a history book within Star Wars. It's like, this is how this person got here. It doesn't talk much about the creation of that character. Then if you get a book that's, you know, behind the scenes of Star Wars, you're going to see the creation of Star Wars, but it doesn't have that immersive, here's why this is the way it is. So these Star Wars Archive Original Trilogy, Star Wars Archive episodes 1 through 3, beautiful blend of both, where, of course, it's because you're talking to George, here's the story, and here's why we did it this way, and here's how the character comes about, and now here's the heart of the character, and stuff like that. So it's a really, really cool mix. I'm sure it's going to be hecka expensive, but I'm still going to try to get it. People like, he was talking to Doug Chang, like that was one of the guys that George says, this is, when you want to talk about the creation of the prequels, this is one of the guys that was one of the heads, you know, talk to him about the creation of characters. And I was watching that interview today, or not his interview, but him just talking about the process. And he said to create, Doug put himself on a pace of trying to create 5 characters per day. And just the process of, you have a sketch, you take 10 sketches to George, he likes 4 of them, you build models of 4 of them, and you start with a bust. If he wants to see more than a bust, then you build almost like a full scale model. And you kind of see that when he picks Dex. You remember that from Clone Wars, or from Attack of the Clones? So that was really cool. Well, the last section of the book is called Talking to George / Life After Episodes 1 through 3. And it's very cool because he's talking to George about life after Episodes 1 through 3, meaning the sale of Disney, or sale to Disney, the sale of Star Wars, why he did it, and if he hadn't done it, what the plans were. And up until now, we had, talks about the wills. You remember that? Mm-hmm. So, what were your thoughts on that? Were you into that? Did you think it was a little bit too deep for the average person?
I don't care about the average person. I'm all about me when it comes to Star Wars. I want what I want. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's a person who can't get into it, they just need to get over that. You know what I mean? I don't like that people want to critique Star Wars because they don't get it. You know what I mean? I hate that Star Wars has to pander to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think if they really want to, they would rise to the challenge. But I would have loved to see that because it's barely touched on in Clone Wars, and I think it's one of the most unexplored but influential aspects of the Star Wars universe, especially when we consider how it played into episodes 4 through 6, which is everybody's favorite for the most part. Broad strokes here. And really, without the wills and the way that they played into it, as we saw in the Clone Wars, that would never have been able to happen. We would never have been Kenobi guiding Luke. We would never had him, connecting Luke to Yoda. We would never have, any of that kind of reconnection that we see at the end of Jedi, where there's life after death, that there is basically the universe celebrating what Luke had done. And so I just would love to see how that plays out. I would love to see Qui-Gon's exploration. How did he find out about the wills? You know what I mean? There are a lot of questions that I have that I would like to have answers to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you have things that it seems on the surface level to an average person, or before you really break it down, you're like, okay, so we're going to talk about the wills for 3 movies. But it's kind of like the end of the 3rd episode of this season of The Mandalorian. Obviously, by the time this airs, it's going to be Monday, so you should have watched it by now. Spoilers coming in. But when you name drop someone like Ahsoka Tano, it's like, are we going to see Rex? Are we going to see Zeb? Are we going to see Ezra? Are we going to see Thrawn? Are we going to see flashbacks of Kanan? Are we going to, you know what I'm saying? Not that any of those things or all of those things are possible. Not that we're actually going to get any of those, because I know that they don't want to rob the spotlight from Mando.
And I wouldn't want them to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but she is the Kevin Bacon, where it's like, now we can go anywhere. I mentioned that in the review episode. So when you talk about the wills, kind of like what you were saying, it seems like it's kind of a niche corner, but the wills have everything to do with everything.
Yeah.
And some of the coolest stories are from, when A New Hope, from a certain point of view, came out. There was the very last story is, how the wills see things going.
Yeah.
And then we haven't, obviously, we're both reading the Empire version. We haven't gotten to the end, but the last story in that one is going to be the wills. And I'm sure that in 4 years, when From a Certain Point of View for Jedi comes out, God willing, we're still doing this show. Millionaires by then.
Hear that, potential sponsors? We've got ambition.
Yeah, we're here for you.
And we'd like your money.
And whatever it takes, we'll take it. No, but I assume for Return of the Jedi, the very final story will be something that the wills had to do with, something about the Chosen One and, the fall of the Emperor and things like that.
By the time we get to Empire, because you see in A New Hope, Ben's kind of guiding Luke already.
Right.
Especially you see that in the trench scene. But by the time we get to Empire, we have like a fully corporeal, Ben Kenobi from the other side. He appears to Luke, in the middle of the blizzard, tells him where to go next. So now we've got the Force really playing a part in the goings-on of the galaxy. And I just think that is much bigger news than it's been given a headline for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you ever thought about the fact that we're going to be almost 70 by the time From a Certain Point of View for Rise of Skywalker comes out?
Hopefully dead by then. I wake up every morning, I'm disappointed.
If it is If they do stick to the 40 years thing, 2059.
What I think about is that if they don't stick to the 40 years thing, then we're going to get fewer stories. You know what I mean? So
right. But I would like to be alive and still able to read when those come out.
we'll see if Disney's playing the long game or not.
Well, I am a little nervous because 20 years of Phantom Menace just passed and nothing.
Yeah.
So 25 years maybe?
Well, and I don't know, maybe they just didn't want Phantom Menace to eclipse, all the hype for... I mean, they had big news at the end of 19, so we'll see.
So if it's every 40 years, then in 2024 we'll get Jedi. Mm-hmm. And if it was every 25 years for the prequel trilogy, then maybe they can put out Jedi in like May and then Phantom Menace later in the year.
I don't know. Maybe you should start writing a letter campaign.
Oh, I am. I'm already emailing folks. So we knew about the wills, and we knew it was a little bit niche, and we weren't sure how much of a story that could create. Yes, it could be a biography. Yes, it could be a sick documentary type of thing. You know what I'm saying? But how much of a movie could it be?
I think it could be like several movies.
Well, yeah, I know,
You know what I mean?
but I'm saying like how, where does it fit into the timeline and all those other kind of things?
It is the timeline. You know what I mean? We're getting the Kenobi series. We're going to get 6 to 8 hours of content is what we're saying.
Right. What I'm saying
that's
is
just his life on Tatooine. It's just one man.
But how does it fit? How does it become a sequel trilogy? What do the wills have to say after all this? Those are the questions that were coming up. So this new news really kind of puts into perspective how there were many avenues that they could have been in or different directions they could have gone. And so this is going to be a really fun episode because it's going to be a ton of speculation.
Mm-hmm. Speculation is where Josiah and I tend to disagree the most. So I'm not angry. I would just like to...
he just sounds angry.
I just have my opinions.
Okay.
I'm angry because Josiah says that I'm angry.
There you go. Exactly. Okay, so here is something. This is a picture of the page of the book. Okay, that's someone that's gotten an early release or something, right? So their picture, not mine. So don't get mad at me, anyone that's not watching this. Okay, so the big bad of the sequel trilogy was going to be Darth Maul.
Yeah.
So
which is
now
pretty
I'm
cool
already angry
because
that we didn't get this.
George, I think, was really excited about Darth Maul, and I think in its time, Darth Maul was kind of a Phasma character. He was big, hyped up, and then wasn't used as much as I think some people expected him to, and then, for all we knew, was dead at the end of the movie. Right. I think George was more attached to that character than he realized way that Phantom played out. Mm-hmm. So I think it's cool that he had ambitions to bring him back to give him his just desserts. Yeah.
Well, it was cool because the way that the story did play out, we got Maul, but his quote-unquote death, his prolonged non-existence, helped bring about a Jango Fett, a General Grievous, a Count Dooku, and now we have all those characters.
Yeah.
Perfect storm. Okay. A new interview with George Lucas, so this is obviously talking about the book, the Star Wars Archives, says that one of the drafts for a sequel trilogy pitch that George had indicated that Lucas wanted to bring not only Darth Maul back, but also a character by the name of Darth Talon.
Yeah.
What's the timestamp right now? Just so we know. 18 minutes.
Okay, we got time.
Sweet. 18 minutes.
Darth Talon, for those of you who don't know, and I think it's pretty cool because this is something that George does very rarely. It says in his description, Darth Talon, who's in the comic books.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the only other person that I know of for sure that George had his hand in the mix, either one, was for Quinlan Vos. That he really liked the character of Quinlan Vos, and he brought him in and made him
Ayla Secura.
Yeah.
Which was from the Vos character, so it says, her backstory would have been completely reworked. In the new backstory, Maul would have trained Talon as his new apprentice, effectively making her the new Darth Vader. In this new story, while Maul would take after Sidious, establishing power by creating a crime network from the shadows, becoming a new threat after the fall of the Empire.
Do we know if this is before or after, the way he envisioned this would have been before or after the way Maul kind of showed up in the Clone Wars?
What do you mean by that?
So when Maul showed up again, he kind of had ambitions to follow Kenobi, but those also unfolded into him kind of gaining control of the underworld.
Right.
Which is kind of how George is describing Maul's role after Jedi. So I'm just curious if he meant to mesh those together or if one...
My understanding is, I think that... okay, so Maul reappears, and in Clone Wars he creates the Shadow Collective, which quickly and easily becomes the strongest crime syndicate on the market, right? On the black market, that is. And then with Season 7, he says, let's get as much power as we can and go underground.
Right.
I think that he would have basically had figureheads like a Dryden Voss, like a Jabba the Hutt, if he did keep Jabba under his finger, if that was included, things like that.
That would have been tough
to do. The Pikes. He would have had basically how we see it from Solo, right? Where you have Crimson Dawn and everybody's like, don't upset Dryden Voss. Don't upset Dryden Voss. And Dryden goes, you know that he doesn't like, don't screw up.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm curious about is if Maul, like his vision of Maul kind of shifted after we saw the way that Maul started controlling things from behind the scenes in Clone Wars, or if it was the other way around.
I would bet that it's...
Because Filoni had his... he was in the midst of the making of Clone Wars, so I feel like if George would have trusted anybody, it would have been him. You know?
Sure. Yeah, I think that... I think I could see Dave Filoni being the new Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen was close to him on Indiana Jones and things like that. She worked hand in hand with him. He could be the new Rick McCallum. You know the guy from the Phantom Menace that always goes, dude. You know what I'm talking about? He's the guy that's on the phone with Ewan McGregor, and he's like, bro, we got Liam, dude. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like in the Phantom Menace, and I was like, I can't remember anybody in the Phantom Menace saying, dude.
Oh, dude, every time he talks, he's
except for maybe Quinlan, and we just couldn't hear him.
Every time he talks, he's like, it's going to be so effing great. Like, he's very like, he's a salesman.
I remember he was really excited when he signed Ewan.
Yeah. I can see Dave being like that right-hand guy. So I can't tell if, like you said, maybe it's a mixture of both.
Yeah. I was just trying to see where the circle started, maybe.
Maybe establish Maul a little bit, have him pull off into the shadows. He disappears, off the map. And I would assume he'd have to go into like the unknown regions or something. Maul has a strong enough presence and a footprint in the Force that Sidious knows where he is at all times.
I would imagine that he would be
Then again, he didn't know where he was. He thought that he had died. So...
I think that's when he was kind of weak, but when he...
Once he gained power...
Because Maul kind of lost himself as well, you know what I mean? But I think Maul could have been looking good if he would have held out somewhere like Dathomir, like a really dark side presence. Because he would have, in the Force, been very similar to what's going on.
he could have been on Dagobah.
Right.
Something like that, similar to what Yoda's talking about. Okay, so what it says is Maul would take after Sidious, establishing power by creating a crime network in the shadows, becoming a new threat after the fall of the Empire. Basically, other things that I've read, tweets and stuff from people who have read the book, say that...
Not entirely dissimilar to how he was looking in the end of Season 7, Clone Wars.
Right. It's the same... but mirrored of the rise of the Empire versus the fall of the Empire. As the Republic waned, he would pick up pieces that they could have held back on the syndicates. As the Empire begins to fall, he's picking up the pieces. And by this sequel trilogy, which I imagine to not be not quite as far in the future.
Yeah.
But not right after. The Heir of the Empire trilogy in Legends was 5 years after. I don't think it would be that quickly. But there is talk of... maybe the first movie is right after, and then we fast forward 10 or 15 years to the second movie. And so it says...
Because it's talking about, to like jump ahead just a little bit, like Luke's trying to reestablish the Jedi, and Lucas is talking about it would have been like 20 years before we had the new generation of Jedi, but it's something that George is envisioning. Exactly.
So maybe the Crawl talks about reestablishing, and then we're 20 years in the future.
War.
Yeah, exactly. It says... the story would begin, here we go, shortly after Return of the Jedi. Sorry, let me recant real quick. The story would begin shortly after Return of the Jedi and would revolve around the Skywalker twins picking up the pieces of Anakin's legacy. Leia would work to restore the Republic and eventually become the Supreme Chancellor, while Luke would seek out a few dozen survivors of Order 66 and seek out children who had Force potential. The story would also have a twist in the prophecy in that here's the big kicker, okay? It would have a twist in the prophecy in that Leia would be the one who brought balance to the Force, not her father. She would be the chosen one. Here is from the book, I believe. It says, Darth Maul trained a girl, Darth Talon, who was in the comic books as his apprentice. She was the new Darth Vader, and most of the action was with her. So these were the two main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually becomes the godfather of crime in the universe because as the Empire falls, he takes over. The movies are about Leia. I mean, who else is going to be the leader, trying to build the New Republic? They still have their apparatus of the Republic, but they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That's the main story. So basically, instead of Empire 2.0 First Order, it's the crime syndicate controls the known galaxy, which would be pretty wild. It would be like a giant solo movie, which is the second best thing to come out under Disney, movie-wise. It says, it starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld. There are these offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
So I don't know. I don't know what that's about.
A bunch of Coruscants flying around out there.
Well, I think what he means is,
I know what he means.
But I wonder what the story is there. There's clearly something there that he plants, Maybe they are sick of the Empire and this is their chance to break free, and maybe they're the, you remember at the end of Rise of Skywalker, there are more of us, Poe, moment. Maybe all these stormtroopers are fighting for the freedom of the galaxy that they helped oppress, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. It says Luke is trying to restart the Jedi. He puts word out. So out of 100,000 Jedi that existed pre-Order 66, maybe 50 or 100 are left. So here's where maybe Quinlan Vos makes an appearance in the sequels, which would have been ballin'. Oh, that means that Crook could have been there.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there.
Frick. The Sombrero of the Orient.
Could have ridden again.
Could have risen. The Rise of the Sombrero of the Orient, episode 9. George, if you buy it back, we're still here.
I've got ideas, George.
Imagine how much he would have to pay, though, to get it back from Disney.
I don't think they'd ever sell it. Palpatine's got the Empire now.
Yeah. So it says the Jedi have to grow again from scratch, so Luke has to find 2 or 3-year-olds, train them. It'll be 20 years before you have a new generation of Jedi. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, so maybe this is 10 years later or whatever, and we would have a new renewal of the New Republic with Leia, Senator Organa becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything, and she ends up being the chosen one. One of the other things that I read is that Darth Talon would try to seduce the son of Han and Leia towards the dark side. And if you know what Darth Talon looks like, probably in every sense of the word.
I just think it's cool that George was so progressive as to make a female alien person of color one of the main villains.
Very the main villain.
Yeah.
So
I think it's cool the way he's envisioning Maul as kind of the Palpatine figure, where Palpatine very much was in the shadows, but still in control, but most of the actions with Vader. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very George.
Oh my God. So we would have seen Luke Skywalker fight Darth Maul.
We would have seen it.
That was a moment of silence for the fight that we're never going to see. You independent filmmakers out there, now's the chance. I know it's not going to be as good as what we would have gotten, but it's something.
Budget's $25. Get to work.
You know what? You stop motion Lego guys, get to it. I want to see Luke versus Maul. I'm just getting picture ideas. Just crazy stuff, dude. Crazy stuff. Crazy talk.
Thirsty. Real thirsty.
Dude, I feel Star Wars dehydrated now. I just saw episode 3 of the season 2 of The Mandalorian, and it's not enough. So what do you think? How does, I don't want to get too picky with this, but how do you think that stacks up against what we got? Oh my God. I do love me some Kylo Ren. I do love me some Kylo Ren.
I just...
but I do love
grass is always greener.
I do love some Darth Maul.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, imagine this.
Because we see it now and we see all the bits and pieces, and the reason we love it immediately is because we're filling in all the missing
We also
parts
love it because it's George.
Well, and we're seeing only the main points, so all the rest of it is just what we imagine we would like to see.
And guarantee you this, if Disney had made this somebody out there would be making a video complaining about Darth Maul being back for the 5th time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? And imagine this book comes out in an alternate universe somewhere, and it's... Now, George's plan was that Palpatine had done an essence transfer onto a secret Sith planet called Exegol. Been there for thousands of years, and you had to have a Sith Wayfinder to find it. Ben Solo becomes a new character named Kylo Ren. He's the son of Han and Leia, and he goes to Mustafar, where his grandfather's, his grandfather's failure forced him into the suit, and he defeats an army of dark acolytes to take a Sith holocron and use it as a map within a new kind of TIE fighter. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We would have been like, why did we get that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's just anything that we don't have sounds attractive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That having been said,
this does sound neat.
I would definitely give this a watch.
Now, something that I've thought about before that they're probably not going to do, but I would love this, is I tweeted out to Star Wars Books. This is years and years ago. Never got a reply.
Crazy.
Yeah, but they're the hardest person to get a hold of. Out of everyone that I've reached out to, they're the hardest person. I've gotten answers from Lucasfilm Limited before I could get an answer from Del Rey. Isn't that crazy? Anyways,
it's because I'm green, isn't it?
That is not a true toy. The thing that got me was I asked them, can we continue different stories and whatever, and you just print it from the get-go with the Legends banner?
Yeah, we're just kind of speculating multiverse here.
Yeah, why not?
Get like the Miles Morales version of Star Wars.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is, I got into this stupid argument on Instagram the other day with...
It was stupid.
This one guy said, I can't believe he was mad because he was saying that Disney was racist for casting a white guy as the Mandalorian. And I was like, you realize that his name is Pedro Pascal and he was born in Chile, right? And he was like, never mind, didn't realize. And I was like, all right, have one of a time. It's the 12 freaking comments. Anyways, but he had commented on a stack of books I had of The Legacy of the Force, my favorite Star Wars series. And I've said this 1,000 times, so you guys are going to be sick of it, but I don't understand the concept of I'm not allowed to read this book now because Disney said it's not real.
I think it's just the stigma of it's not official, so it's not real. You know what I mean? But then people forget none of it's real. So
right? This is the real Star Wars.
Right. The real fake story.
Yeah, exactly.
The real story that never happened.
And also what's crazy is if you want to jump back and forth, that's your prerogative.
Right.
And
and I have a friend, and she was asking for Star Wars books to read, and my first recommendation was where I started, which was Plagueis. I was like, it's not...
I thought you were going to say Darth Bane.
It's not canon anymore, you know what I mean? But it's still a fantastic book. You get great character development. You get cool looks at the Force that I think aren't really presented in any other Star Wars book that I've read. And you can still appreciate it. It's not going to necessarily add to what's considered canon, but it's not going to detract either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the weird thing to me is unless you're like playing Star Wars Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're like, that power doesn't count anymore. What's the difference? I love Kylo Ren. I love that we got to see him on screen. I think Adam Driver did a fantastic job. The story and the rise and fall of Jason Solo from Legends is much more in-depth. It's much more tragic because if you're a reader, you know him so much better before the fall.
Well, and I think that's just the comparison of books and movies anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I remember anybody who will say, for instance, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That the books are better. 100% agree. But nobody's going to sit there for a 14-hour movie to get all the details that are in the book. You know what I mean?
I would do it.
Each one of those movies, or each one of those books, it would have to be like its own 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's just too picky. You know what I mean?
And I would like to say this. I would like to say for those of you who are mad about the cancellation, quote unquote, of the expanded universe, Legends, whatever you want to call it, it's interesting because me and a few of friends were talking about this, but George Lucas, he pulled a Disney here with this concept and goes, oh yeah, here's Darth Talon. She's part of the one Sith from Luke's great-great-grandson, Cade Skywalker. 100-something years in the future.
Yeah,
she would be cool 15 years after Return of the Jedi.
He's just bits and pizza.
Yeah, he's bits and pizza. He's just boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats.
Yeah.
So
pizza.
Pizza.
Some nice.
So it's the same concept of, hey, Jason Solo's a cool character, but what if we do him this way?
Yeah.
Hey, here's a cool thing of essence transfer.
Right.
What if we do it where the body can't hold Palpatine? Things like that.
And it's not dissimilar to what they did with Thrawn, where
exactly.
Super cool character. He's after the fall of the Empire, but he doesn't fit there now.
Here's a great place to fit him.
We're gonna put him somewhere else, and I still love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Still a big fan, huge fan.
So the way it would play out, I imagine that Ben, or whatever his name would be, Jason, would partially fall. Man, that would be rough. I guess there's my thought would be the big bad would be Jason. I mean, it would be Maul versus Luke. But if Maul is overthrown by Talon, 2 or 3 movies in.
Well, and I think that would just be a subplot overall. You know what I mean? Because there's already enough going on.
Yeah, maybe it's similar to the original trilogy, and it's join me, we can overthrow Darth Maul.
Yeah, I mean that's just the tale of the Sith.
Yeah,
head tails of the Sith.
Pretty funny. But yeah, it would be very interesting. Man, it would be so cool to see. Obviously, I believe that maybe Leia would be force sensitive in this, but maybe not. He kind of kept her in the political spectrum.
Yeah, but that isn't necessarily to detract from her. Because even in the Legends material, you see Leia. She's been trained by Luke. She still has a lightsaber. But she keeps in the political arena. That's her choice. It's
really cool because on the cover of some of the books from that Legacy of the Force series, she's a senator or whatever, but she kind of has a Jedi-ish type outfit. Yeah, she has kind of a Jedi-ish outfit, but it's white like what she would wear as the Princess of Alderaan.
Well, and I think it's just the fact that she would be wasted as a Jedi. You know what I mean? Because as a Jedi, the best she would be as a diplomat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
As she would be wasted to be strictly one or the other. But she's a beautiful picture of the, both.
I think something else that's interesting from this description is that George describes Han and Leia as the Skywalker twins. Which I know is a stupid thing to say, but...
You mean Luke and Leia?
What did I say?
I think you said Han and Leia.
I'm sorry. Luke and Leia. He called them the Skywalker twins, right? And they're twins. Everybody knows that. But I just think of them as separate. You know what I mean? Like they're so separate in my mind, but it's so different as the way that George would think about them.
Yeah.
He just thinks
it
would
be interesting
twins,
if
like a match set.
Yeah. It would be interesting if in that sequel trilogy, if they did get to work together a lot, if you could see that bond grow. That would be something that would have been cool to see. That's something that we missed out on with the sequels.
Yeah, because
we didn't get the trio on screen together.
One thing that I think is interesting, and it did kind of get picked up in Rise of Skywalker, is the idea of a force connection. That I know in the books, I think it's this trilogy that's after the Heir to the Empire trilogy, where Han is kind of like picked up by Leia, but Leia's connection to Luke in the Force is much stronger. And then it talks about the Force connection between Han and Leia's twins.
Are you talking about the Hand of Thrawn duology?
Yeah. How their Force connection is really strong.
Yeah.
I think
it would have been cool if they became if they were a dyad.
Yeah. I think that maybe that's where they pulled that concept from, because I don't remember it being talked about so strongly anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, it would have been cool to see her kind of be both. It would have been cool. I know that George would have had the Golden Trio on the screen at the same time. Man, it really does blow my mind that we got Harrison Ford back on board. I know Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill would have wanted to come back. But to really bring Harrison Ford back and not have the three of them on screen at the same time, that's just such a waste.
I, speaking of Harrison Ford, watched Call of the Wild today.
Oh, really? Was it good?
It was really good. I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen it. I remember me and Chance were talking about it nonstop before it came out, and then it came out and I haven't watched it, and it's been streaming for forever.
I texted Chance and I was like, hey, have you watched Call of the Wild yet? I remember you were really excited about it. And I knew he was excited about it because he covered his eyes and put his headphones in so that he wouldn't see any of the details in the trailer.
I remember that.
I was like, oh, he's dedicated.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even look at the movie poster.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I haven't watched it yet. And I was like, it's pretty good so far. And he's like, I'll get around to it eventually. And I said, is that the title of your life story?
Yeah,
he said, unfortunately, you're not wrong. And I said, that's the title of mine.
That's funny. Man, but just to think, like, okay, so survivors of Order 66, you could have Quinlan Voss, you could have Crook, you could bring freaking...
It's very similar to the conversation you and I had about the name dropping of Ahsoka Tano and the appearance of Bo-Katan. It's just kind of Pandora's box, you know what I mean? That's a bridge into so many other things.
But I think if you had comic characters that came in versus Clone Wars characters and Rebels characters, it would be easier to just have them as a background.
Well, and
Crook could be the new Mace Windu.
Well,
he's cool, but he's not the main guy.
Is that it's mainline story now, so it's a different feel. You know what I mean? You're going to want to bring in the big characters.
Yeah,
I think it should be treated differently than Mandalorian, where you want to stay B-roll. You know what I mean? You want to keep the sidelines of the galaxy in the main view of the story.
Yeah, that's very true. You don't really want the main players in because they'll take over the screen.
Right, for sure.
And Crook was a cool enough guy that someone like me would be like, oh, there the freak he is.
Yeah.
But he's niche enough that, an average viewer would be like, oh, that's a cool looking guy. Looks kind of like a Warthog a little bit.
Yeah, ironically,
we just go from there.
Not dissimilar to Maul's appearance at the end of Solo. You know what I mean? That nobody understood that who didn't watch the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That for everybody who did watch the Clone Wars, we're like, here it freaking is, Yeah. And then everybody else is like, Darth Maul alive?
How are we not getting Solo 2 right now? God bless.
Because it's a Solo film.
That's pretty funny.
Thanks.
Man, I feel like they pushed it. I would have almost I don't know. It costs a lot of money to push back a movie, but just from how much negativity was around from Last Jedi, I almost would have just held off. But man, there are people getting paid a lot of money to make those decisions.
I think it would have
sold it.
Been just as negative if they had done that, because then there would have been antipathy about, why are they pushing it back?
Probably sucks.
Why are they trying to hide from us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh man, I'm just so sick of people.
Who did get away with that was the Sonic movie, where they were talking about stuff and they had those preemptive releases. And
but they got away with it because everybody was like, please wait.
Yeah. But the thing is,
I heard it was good though when it came out.
Yeah, everybody was really happy about it. The way they took a lot of time and a lot of money to redesign it, to make it where everybody was like, all right, this is what we're talking about.
Right.
But I think Star Wars already had that negative air that they didn't have that fan backing. You know what I mean? And there wasn't enough release for people to be like, you need to save this. Yeah. So I think probably they made the good call.
Man, talk about Ron Howard coming in and saving Solo. Mm-hmm. I love Lord and Miller, but I did not want a Lego movie, Star Wars movie. Yeah. Maybe a little too slapsticky. Yeah. So I was glad that Ron came in and saved it. Ron has a good relationship with George Lucas, is my understanding, and Steve Spielberg. And then Bryce Dallas Howard, his daughter, directed episode 4 of first season Mandalorian. That cool episode with the Klatchmanian Raider and the ATST, the one where we meet Cara Dune and stuff. And then she directed episode 3 of this season. Correct. So she's doing really, really good. Yeah. I think that all the directors have done a really great job.
To reference another Ron Howard movie that I already talked about today, The Grinch. I just think it's really funny how his brother is like the stooge. Yeah. Because I didn't know that it was Ron Howard's brother, but the sidekick of the mayor is Ron Howard's brother. He's like, all right, you can be in the movie, but you're going to be an idiot.
Well, it's funny because Ron Howard's brother is in Solo. Yeah. And whenever they're like...
He makes a lot of appearances.
In every single one of his
movies. Oh, really? Yeah. When L3's like, droid rights, Ron Howard's brother's like, he's never had it so good. Dude, what a funny character.
He's just such a goob. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That droid den felt the most like the cantina out of a lot of the... you have the castle with Maz Kanata, and you have Canto Bight, and you have all these places. Did that feel the most like the cantina to you out of the new stuff?
Are you talking about on...
when they're finding Lando and they're watching the droid fight?
Okay, I thought you were talking about the mines on Kessel, like where all the droids were at.
No.
I think the most like the cantina to me was Maz's cantina.
Really?
Yeah.
I felt like there was a sense of goodwill in that place that was not as slimy as the cantina.
Yeah, but you still had like the good and the bad there. You know
Definitely,
what I mean?
definitely.
You had the.
And you know what? I think part of it was spoiled for me by listening to some audiobook. I can't remember what it was, but it was like Maz had a no fighting, you can never come back like rule.
Was it Force Collector?
No. This was like Journey to the Force Awakens. Okay. It was like a short story collection from stuff before the Force Awakens. And it was
one funny tidbit from Force Collector was that Han gave Maz Luke's medal.
Yeah.
Battle of Yavin. He didn't give him his own medal.
Yeah, that is funny. A really Han Solo thing to do. Hey, also from a certain point of view, again, we're like 5 or 6 or 7 stories in, something like that. I guess I'm on my 10th story because I'm a quarter of the way through. A lot of these writers do not like Han Solo.
They don't like Han at all.
They do not like Han Solo.
Our plan is to talk about that next week, so I don't want to get too into it. But
yeah.
There's
Blast Points is putting out their episode this Tuesday about it, and I messaged them, and I said, hey, there's a lot of Built on Hope quotes in here. And he goes, yeah, we talk about that. But yeah, so I'm interested to hear their thoughts as well. And then we're going to have our review episode this next week. But, dude, just think about that. So Darth Talon, who is part of, if you don't know who that is, Darth Krayt's Sith Empire that takes over.
Who I believe we talked about in the Tuskens episode.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Darth Krayt.
Get a little back info there.
Yeah, if you like that. Darth Krayt is raised as a Tusken Raider, becomes a Jedi, escapes Order 66, really has a hard time, kind of hates the world, been betrayed.
Apparently lives forever.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is he goes in, it's an interesting Force thing where he goes into the temples on Korriban, and as he's studying, it's very similar to stuff that we would read in the Darth Bane trilogy, where it's like, and hours would pass, and he had no clue because the wisdom of the Force was sustaining him. You know, stuff like that. And so he came out, and it was like the end of everything. He came out, and the trailers were rolling, and he was like, now I'm mad. And I think it was shortly after that he was trapped by the Yuuzhan Vong. Anyway, something like that, where by the time he creates the one Sith and attacks the galaxy, it's Kate Skywalker who has to be... If all the line is congruent in Legends,
grandson, right?
You have Luke, and Luke has Ben, and even if Ben is directly related to Cade's dad, that would be, Luke's great-grandson, Kate Skywalker. And so the one Sith attack, and Talon is one of his main right-hand people. So you have Darth Maul, which is the ultimate freaking...
UFC fighter?
No, that's funny though. Jorge Maleval. No, he's the ultimate Quarren because he's a Sith. Dude, imagine those guys. Imagine how painful it would be when they're tattooing those balls on the back of your head. Oh my God. You would probably have to take some heroin to get through that one.
I'm bringing it back.
We're going for
you could go to Oregon and get that heroin legally.
Dude, I saw
that picture with the straw.
I saw a meme, Adam, and it was a picture of someone snorting coke with a plastic straw, and I was like, one of these is illegal in Oregon. How crazy is that? We are in weird times now, folks. Soon and very soon. So we're talking, probably 100 years later, and it's just cool, and I think it speaks a lot to don't take Legends so seriously. Guys, you can read those stories and read those comics and stuff and enjoy them, but George Lucas himself was like, here's a cool character that I'll sell a toy. Boink. I'll take her 100 years into the past. You know what I mean? So a very, very interesting concept, and, man, some awesome stuff, but we don't want to drag it out. But, man, just what could have been and what might still could be if they do some kind of crazy spin-off comic or whatever. I would love to have that. I would love to be...
Well, and I think the important thing to remember is that don't get so attached to this that you hate what you have. You know what I mean? I think the sweetest thing about having this is being able to enjoy both.
Exactly. And
there are things I would definitely miss about the sequel trilogy that we've got.
Yeah. If for as tragic as it was, there was a magical span of about 3 years where Snoke was just the coolest thing. And I will cherish that forever. Leading up to The Force Awakens, leading up to The Last Jedi.
Well, and you know what? We've
there's
talked
still
about this
some ambiguity
before,
there.
but we've still gotten so much Star Wars content, like more than we've ever gotten before,
Yeah.
in such a small amount of time. I think it's just such a big thing to, like, it's such a big machine to drive. You know what I mean? I don't think any one person could have done it. So it's cool to have all those things, and, you know, now we've got the High Republic coming out. That's a whole new era we're exploring. They're discussing, you know, on top of the Kenobi series that we've already got, Mandalorian Season 3, which starts filming soon. We're going to get
possible rumored Boba Fett series.
Yeah, and then,
don't forget the Cassian Andor series is still a thing.
And the rumored, like, Old Republic trilogy that may be coming out. So
yep, 2022, 2024, and 2026, I believe, is when those were supposed to start. So we really need this Corona thing to get fixed, because think about that, filming and casting and all that stuff for 2022.
Yeah, napping for 6 months was cool, but now you're messing with my Star Wars.
Yeah, come on. But yeah, and if you want, if you're wanting to be like, man, what would that be like to read those stories? You know, you can still watch Clone Wars Season 7 and look at what Maul became. You can still read the Son of Dathomir comic and see what it was like when he busted out of being held by Palpatine.
You can still go explore Darth Talon and the Legacy of the Force series.
Go find Legacy of the Force is the rise and fall of Jacen Solo, and then the Fate of the Jedi is the rise and fall of Abeloth. At the very end of that, Darth Krayt and Luke work together to defeat Abeloth. And then if you go far into the future, you can read the Legacy comics. So Legacy of the Force novels, and then years later, Legacy comics. They're all on Kindle. They're all out there somewhere to find, to buy. They just recently released the third album, or whatever you want to call it, collection. You know, Marvel has those collections of like a ton of whatever, 50 issues or whatever. And they've recently released 1, 2, and 3 of the Legacy series. So if you're a person that needs it in your hand, I'm sure for a price, it's available to you.
Correct.
But there's tons of stuff to still celebrate that you can go and read, and it's never too late to be a bigger Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that Star Wars is forever.
There. It's still there. Those books haven't been banned. We're not in Nazi Germany. You know, they haven't been burned. They're still in print.
That's how people feel. Yeah, you can, and maybe you need to spend a little bit more coin if you don't want the Legends banner. But if you don't care about that, Amazon, $6, $8, you can get the whole, $8 a book.
Yeah.
So those things are still there, and Star Wars is about love. It's for kids. It's a reprieve from everyday life. So don't take the stress that you feel from your everyday life and your job that sucks or whatever, and force that into your Star Wars. You know, you need to kick your legs up at the end of the day and put on some smooth jazz and read a Star Wars book to relax. So, anyways, some awesome stuff.
Chronicles.
Now that is a book that I would love to read.
I would read the crap out of that.
I would read the crap out of it, and the audiobook would be straight fire. We would hear someone's Samuel L. Jackson impression for Lando Calrissian. Now listen here. All right, very cool. Well, very cool speculation episode, and that book, I don't know when it's coming out, the Archives book that's coming out, but it's going to be amazing, chock full of images and interviews. But
$152 pre-sale on Amazon.
$152?
Yeah.
100 or 200?
$152.
So if anybody out there just feeling extra generous and has $304 for me and Samuel, we'll take you up on it.
Sure, I don't want one.
Yeah. Adam is rich. I'm just kidding. If you're feeling extra generous, yeah, $450. So thank you guys for tuning in. Star Wars is forever. Those books are still there. Read them, celebrate the love. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.
And remember,
no matter what sequel trilogy there is,
Legends, Canon, Solo, Mandalorian, I don't give a care. The only family you have here is me.
See you guys next week.